Section 25 of Psychology, the Cognitive Powers. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Psychology, the Cognitive Powers by James McCosh. Book 3, The Comparative Powers, Classification of Relations, Part 2. Section 7, Relations of Active Power or Property. We are able to know these relations because we know objects without and within us as exercising power. We know body as having potency probably by all the senses. We seem to have a perception of body, affecting us even by smell, taste, feeling, hearing, and vision. Certainly we have it by the muscular sense. It is palpably wrong to assert, as some do, that body is altogether passive. There is a sense, it should be admitted, in which body is passive. If left isolated and alone, it will not act. It will continue in the state in which it is, but every body is acted on by other bodies. It is attracted by them or chemically affected by them. It acts and is acted on. It moves and is changed. All action of bodies is mutual action. One body acts on another, and the other acts on it. In respect of their active powers, bodies have various relations to each other, which we can discover and express. Physical science consists essentially in the discovery of the relations of bodies to each other, which are expressed in laws, mechanical, chemical, vital. It is generally acknowledged that mind has power. I think I see proof that body acts on mind and mind on body. An action of the nerves and brain gives rise to perception. I will to move my arm, and it moves. There is always much mystery about the relations, that is, mutual actions of mind and body. Still, some points have been determined as to the relation of mind and the cerebrospinal mass, and hundreds are eagerly employed in seeking to make further discoveries. We certainly know much speculatively and practically as to the activity of mind and the laws which govern it. From the days of Aristotle there has been a science of mind, and it has made considerable progress in modern times. This treatise is professedly an endeavour to discover the powers of the mind and the relations between them. In the business of life and the intercourse of mankind, one man seeks to sway his neighbour by working upon what he knows of the motives by which he is swayed. Section 8. Relation of cause and effect. Causation may be considered objectively and subjectively. Under the former aspect we regard it as acting independently of our observation or any observation of it. A spark will kindle gunpowder, whether we notice it or not. Under the latter we contemplate the mind looking at it, or, in other words, we inquire what is the nature of the exercise or power which discovers the relation. 1. Causation objective. Much remains to be settled as to what causation is. How does force stand related to cause? How are properties related to cause when it is said that mind and matter are known by their properties? What is the difference between power in mind and power in matter? Some points seem to me to be determined, and these may in the end determine the others. First, there is an energy in all physical nature. It is acknowledged that there is a conservation of energy. Spencer calls it persistence of force. Physicists distinguish between potential and real energy. Aristotle's distinction between dunamis and energia. The former cannot be increased or diminished by any mundane agency, by any power but that of God, to whom in the end all power belongeth. All the physical forces, mechanical, chemical, electric, magnetic, some think the vital also, are correlated and can be transmuted into one another, so much chemical and electric power being an equivalent of so much mechanical energy. This power is always in body, but may be transferred from body to body according to the capacities of the body. Thus a ball A in motion strikes a ball B at rest, and the power in A is transferred to B, which moves while A now rests. It should be observed that while the amount of energy in each body has changed, the whole amount of energy continues the same. I believe the capacity for energy in the body also continues the same, and it is possible to reverse the action and make B in motion strike A at rest and transfer its motion to it. Every body has a certain capacity, dunamis, for receiving this power, and this power in exercise constitutes the properties of the body, its gravitating, chemical, electric, magnetic, and, it may be, vital properties. As to mental properties, say intelligence, emotion, moral approbation, will, there is no reason to believe that they are correlated with physical powers. It is the office of psychology to determine their nature, their extent, and their limits. In doing this, it labours under the disadvantage of not having a precise standard of measurement, as mechanics have in foot-pounds. but it has a counteracting advantage in the acts being under the immediate cognizance of the consciousness. Secondly, another important point has been established. John S. Mill has shown that there are always two or more agents in a cause, physical. We are accustomed to say that this plant was killed by the frost, but there is more embraced in the cause than the frost, that is, than the low state of the atmosphere. That agency alone would not have produced the effect. In the cause we have to include the state of the plant. The frost might not have destroyed the plant if it had not been tender. The low temperature and the tenderness of the plant together constitute the cause, and were necessary to cause the effect. Carrying out the same views a step farther, I have been endeavouring to show that not only is there a duality or plurality in the cause, there is the same in the effect. There is a change in the plant, but there is also a change produced, difficult to measure, in the temperature of the atmosphere. It is the same in all cases, two or more agents acting as the cause, and the same agents changed in the effect. A ball A strikes a ball B, both balls act, and both balls are acted on and are changed, the one losing momentum, the other gaining it. There is thus a most complicated agency in causation, and a like complication in effectuation. How numerous the agencies producing any given historical event! On the supposition that the wolf suckled Romulus, we may trace the influence on the whole history of the Roman people. Certainly the character of Knox has so far influenced the Scottish character in all later ages. The Puritan character of the 17th century and the Pilgrim Fathers, modified by very different influences, has helped to mould the people of New England. In the common explanations, one of the agents, the more prominent one, or that supposed to be the main one, is spoken of as the cause. The others are described as the conditions, or the occasions. It was on the occasion of this man being exposed to cold that he caught fever and died. We commonly look only to one part of the complex consequence, the one most prominent or the one expected, as the effect, and we call the others incidents or concomitants. We say that the flood refreshed the ground, but incidentally or accidentally it also drowned a certain person. But rigidly speaking, there is no chance in what is occurring, no accident in what has taken place. All the agents acting are to be included in the cause, and are also to be seen in the effect. They constitute the invariable antecedent which has produced the effect, and which, when it recurs, will forever produce the effect. The same effect precisely will follow when they are all present. Cause and effect do not consist, as Hume maintains, in invariable antecedents and consequence. In the cause, that is, in the agents forming the cause, there is power, force, or energy to produce the effect. It is not the invariable antecedents which makes the cause, but the cause which makes the invariable antecedents. All power, we have seen, resides in a substance. Let us suppose, as we have done, that every substance is endowed with its own capacity or property. Then, the substances continuing the same, there must always be the same amount of energy in the world, a conservation of energy, a persistence of force, as it is called. The grand doctrine of our day, of the conservation of energy, seems to follow from these principles. Causation subjective. This falls under psychology. This relation, like every other, throws us back on our primitive cognitions. We know mind by self-consciousness and body by sense-perception, as possessing power to produce an effect. Our earliest knowledge of mind and our earliest knowledge of matter is thus associated with efficiency. Herbert Spencer may be right in representing force as the most essential quality of body as made known to us. It is certainly known as early and directly as extension, commonly regarded, and I believe justly, as one of the essential qualities of body. It may be by resistance, that is, force from a surface, that extension is first made known to us by the touch and by the rods in the eye. Power is more fully revealed to us in the exercise of mental properties, and we regard it as an essential quality of mind. We trace everything that occurs to a power in a substance producing it. This is a primitive perception. It is self-evident, evident in the thing itself as we know it. It is necessary, we cannot be made to think or believe otherwise. It is a universal perception. Children act upon the conviction as soon as they begin to act intelligently. They follow the light which they find produces the pleasant impression on their eye. Savages, even the lowest in the scale, act upon it, and expect the same effect to follow the same cause. Not that they are able, like a metaphysician, to enunciate the law, but upon the bare inspection of the object before them, they form a decision and act upon it. It is after careful introspection and reflection that we are able to detect the precise nature of the law and to formulate it. The law is not, as most people who have not thought much on the subject are disposed to say, that everything has a cause. If this were the law, there would be no first cause, and we would require to seek for a cause of God himself. Our primary knowledge of power is a new thing produced. We instinctively seek for a cause only for a new object or a new manifestation of an old object. The true expression of the law is that whatever begins to be has a cause. This is to our minds a fundamental law at the basis of all action. While our primary conviction as to cause and effect is intuitive, yet much of the knowledge which we have of actual causes and effects is the result of a gathered induction. It is only by careful observation that we know the nature of particular powers, such as gravitation, chemical affinity, electricity. It is by careful weighing and measuring that we know what are the powers in any one bodily object, say what is its weight, or its chemical affinity towards any other body. But believing that every material object has power, we are prompted to find what are the extent and the limits of that power. We see that intuitive conviction, so far from restricting experimental investigation or rendering it unnecessary, is the main means of inducing us to engage in it. For while it does not reveal the cause, it constrains us to believe that there is a cause, which we therefore inquire after. It should be noticed that the belief in the relation of cause and effect is not the same as the belief in the uniformity of nature. These two have often been confounded. Though connected, they are essentially different. The former is intuitive and universal. The latter is a discovery of science and is not universally believed in. The child and the savage always look for a cause to every phenomenon in which they are interested, but they have no special faith in the uniformity of nature. Till lengthened observation, till, in fact, advanced science, teaches them, they are quite ready to believe that nature, so far from being under law, is acted on by various supernatural agencies, and is under agencies always acting causally, but in no rigid order. It is only as people advance in knowledge that they discover that all events obey laws narrower or wider. It is only within the last few ages that the uniformity of nature has been established as a scientific truth. But we have here to do not with the uniformity of nature, but with causation as a law of mind. According to the account given above, causation is always in objects, material or mental, all of which possess power. As there is reality in objects, material and mental, there is reality in the powers and in their causal relation by means of these powers. The cause of a known effect is not superinduced upon the objects by the mind, as Kant holds. It is perceived as in the objects and in the nature of the objects. We are thus in a real world not only in regard to objects, but in regard to all their action, which is indeed an essential part of their nature. These coal strata which we see in the earth are a reality, and we argue from them that the deposited plants which formed them millions of years ago are also realities. By a like reasoning process, we discover these adaptations in the eye and ear so wonderful, we seek for a cause which is also real in the designing mind of the living and true God. But while all this is true, there may be limitations to the truth. We know power to be both in mind and body and in their very nature, but it does not follow that every act is one of causation and necessary causation. As a matter of fact, we have a peculiar consciousness as to acts of the will when we choose this and reject that, when, for example, we resist the evil and choose the good. Because we believe in a cause behind every other action of body and mind, I am not sure that we are required to seek for a causal power behind these free acts of the will, or at least that this causal power is of the same kind as operates so sternly in every other part of nature. There may be an outlet here for free will in perfect consistency with the universal prevalence of causation in all other parts of nature, including all other mental states, intellectual and emotional. I do not claim that in this way we can clear up all the mystery which broods like a cloud over the point at which free will and causation meet, but we have shown that there is a place where free will may act in perfect consistency with all that we know of causation, thus allowing our consciousness to give its testimony in favour of free will, without interfering with the dicta of any other part of our nature. The subject will be resumed when we come to speak of the will in a subsequent volume. End of section 25.